Morning, I'm Brett and welcome to my backyard. As many of y'all noticed when y'all been out lately, everything's getting just a little bit more expensive, including our gardening supplies. And one of the biggest supplies we use in our garden is our potting soil. Not only to get our little seedlings started, but to grow up our bigger plants into our bigger pots. You may can see some of my pots I'm preparing back here for my tomatoes and peppers when they get to come outside here pretty soon. But the price has gone up a lot, and so today we're going to talk about how to make a cheaper blend for you to use at your home garden. Now, first of all, this is some potting soil. As you can see, this is one of my favorite measuring containers here. We drink a lot of coffee in the morning, and it makes a good measure. A lot of things when you're doing these blends, you just need to make sure you've got equal parts, and so one container is good as another. I sometimes use this, I sometimes use a scoop ice machine, but I'll show you here. You can see this potting mix. It's got a bunch of organic material in there, some peat moss, and it looks like it may possibly have some little pieces of perlite in there. And this stuff is costing right now for about 2 cubic feet, somewhere between about $12 and $16 a bag. So what we're going to start with today is our peat moss. Now, I went and bought a bale of this peat moss, and this cost me about $12 a bag, same price as the potting mix, but I'm going to be able to make several bags worth out of this. You'll see how much cheaper it is when we get to the end. That's even with this going up. I've seen some of this going up as high as $70 I was looking at online yesterday. But this peat moss is good and light, helps make the soil light for especially the little seedlings, and easy for them to get started in. Maintains moisture. Now, it's really damp or really dusty when you first start off. I went ahead and put some water on this last night here in my wheelbarrow, and you can see it kind of clumping together a little bit there. You want it to be able to have a little bit of moisture, not only to knock the dust down, but to go ahead and get started soaking in. First, peat moss will repel water at the very beginning, kind of beat off the top, and so you want to go ahead and pre-soak it before we mix it. Not to where it's soggy and standing in water, but just enough where it kind of clumps together there, but very easily will fall back apart like that. And this is going to make up half of our potting soil here. So we're just going to take our scoop. It's not exact science, it's not baking a cake, but we're going to try to get pretty close. So we're going to do several scoops of different things. Now, you can use a wheelbarrow like I've got here. You can mix. I've got a little mixing bed over here. Sometimes I just do it by hand. You can mix in your pot. If you don't have very much, you can just mix it together right there in your pot you're going to be using. I tend to need a little bit more and have the luxury of a good mixing tool for me here, so that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to put, let's go about 5 scoops in there, if I can keep my math going. And one more. You'll notice when I'm doing that little bit of moisture keeps the dust down. All right, so we got our first component. Our next component is compost. Now, I've got a compost bin over here. I break down everything from leaves around the yard, our vegetable scraps, even, I've picked up a lot of pecans this year, got pecan shells in there, lots of different things. Break down, we turn that throughout the year and get it broke down to compost, but maybe you don't have room around your yard to do all this. Well, I went and got this from the store, same 2 cubic foot bag. This was about $4, and you can see it's got good organic material in there. It's got a good smell. You can see the color, it's a rich dark black color there. This is going to provide a lot of the nutrients. Now the peat moss itself is a little acidic. This is going to be a little more alkaline, counterbalance it there a bit. Some of your plants like a heavier acidic soils. Your tomatoes, for instance, they'll like a heavier acidity, and that's mostly what we're going to be preparing for, tomatoes and peppers today. But we're just going to mix equal amounts of this. So we've got 50% of our peat moss, and we're going to go 50% of our good compost here. All right. You can tell it's a good compost by just looking at it and the smell. A lot of times you'll go to some of these places and they'll have bulk garden soil, and it may have the color, but doesn't have any nutrient value. I got some of that last year that I think they were just using pine shavings that they added enough chicken manure just to color it. We want to make sure it's got good nutrient value for our little seedlings. Were y'all counting with me? Was that 5? We'll go with that. All right. So now we've got 50% of our peat moss, 50% of our compost, but we're going to make it even better. We want something better than 100% better than the bagged stuff. So I have a luxury of having a fireplace at my house. Some of y'all may have a little fire pit out back, and any wood ash will work, but most of us that have a fireplace over winter, we like to use oak because oak wood won't burn up as fast. It's not as sappy, get clogged in the chimney there, and breaks down into a good ash that's good for your plants. They actually did a study, I believe it was at Cornell, that found that the oak has the most nutrients of all the wood ash when it breaks down. It provides good potassium levels to your plants. It's got calcium in it, and a little bit of nitrogen and stuff. I believe they said this can be as much as 20% of your potassium levels can come from the wood oak, whereas stuff like fir may only be about 5%. But you can see it's just nice broke down wood ash. So we're going to add about 5% of this to the mix here. And then there's one more ingredient. I'm not going to add this one today, but I'll go ahead and talk about it with you a little bit. Them little white specks that you see in the bags there, it's usually a perlite or vermiculite. Now all that is, it's a expanded volcanic glass. They superheat it, kind of like popcorn. They make it blow up, and then you know how your popcorn's got all these little holes and divots in it. Well, it's the same thing with this stuff here. You can see some of it here, and it looks kind of like styrofoam. Kind of feels like it too. And this is good. It helps aerate the soil, and all them little holes in there will help kind of hold the moisture inside too, and help release it, kind of like a time release there. If you get into using the perlite vermiculite, it is very dusty, and like I said, it comes from volcanic ash, so it's got a lot of silica in there. And so if you're using it, it's maybe the only time I'd recommend wearing a mask. You may want to wear a mask or dump it away from you, maybe wet it a little bit when you put it in there, because that dust can get into the lungs and really irritate you there. So I'm not going to open that up this morning. But the other reason I'm not doing it on this mix is I'm trying to plant little seedlings in little 1-inch containers this morning, and this is a bigger granule here. They make a finer granule. If you want to use some of it in your real small planting containers, I would suggest getting a finer grade, maybe even using sand. A good clean contractor grade sand would also work, but that won't take up as much room. If you got a little bigger pot, you know, you're going 3-inch bigger pots, this will be okay to use in there. So now that we got that going, we're going to mix. Oh, forgot. We said we were going to make it better than the bag stuff, so I'm going to add about 5% water, like I said, just to settle some of that dust down in there. There we go. Now we're going to mix it up. Oh, it's going good now. All right, we'll let that mix for just a minute. Like I said, this potting soil that we bought in the bag, $12 for that bag, and that's on the cheaper end. A lot of it's up $16, $18, some of it now. With this other ingredients, we got $12 bag of peat moss. We got a $4 bag of some compost here. This much Perlite's going to cost you about $5. You can get it in bigger sacks from online or maybe your garden center. A little bit of ash from the fireplace. You burn pit, you know, you're out having fun with some neighbors, and just scoop up the ashes from there from the weekend and put them in your garden for the week. And like I said, that all adds up to, let me see, about 110%. They're going to be 110% better than your store-bought stuff. And with all that together, that $20, even if you use the Perlite, we're going to make mini bags worth. I didn't even use 10% of my peat moss so far here, so I'm gonna reckon with this we're probably going to make at least 4 or 5 bags worth, so about 20% of the price. It's a good deal these days. Go a lot further, we can plant more vegetables to grow. Let's see how this is going. Oh, it's got that good smell in it. All right, turn this off. Now, let's look here at what we've got. So, this here is the store-bought stuff, and this here is the stuff we just made. You see them side by side? That's pretty close. Like I said, this here on my right, your left, it's going to be a lot cheaper. So that's a good way to make your dollar stretch further this spring while you're getting planted. I hope y'all enjoyed that video. If you got any comments, please leave them below. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.